Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Dynasty Fourth podcast. Back with you again live on this Wednesday, March 24th. I did not look at the date on my phone in order to tell you that. But with me, as always, he's not here because he wanted to help you guys watch us a little better. Here, as far as picture, he's here in voice, though. Billy Brisbane at Getting Bills on Twitter. How's it going, buddy?
Yo, you already know I'm here. Doing it off the cell phone today, so we don't have any internet connection problems and stuff like that. Currently have my camera off because I'm eating some food. Don't want you guys to see me eating with my mouth open and stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
disgusting eater from I've
I'm
learned.
excited, Rob. I know this wasn't on the show sheet, but man, when I was doing some UFC stuff last week, fucking Twitter blowing up. Kyle Pitts 6'8", 240, 4'4", 5".
Oh, yeah.
That's the only time that you see in a fucking creative Madden player at the tight end position.
Yes. Him, like, he's just gonna be so much fun. I cannot wait to, like, I feel like I'm gonna spend too many high draft capital picks on Kyle Pitts in rookie drafts trying
I think that's the best
just
thing
have
to
him.
happen, bro, because like he gets drafted like 4th or 5th, then you get the wide receivers that are probably going to be going around the same exact range, and like you it creates more value, man, because people are going to overdraft Kyle Pitts if they need a tight end.
Yeah, you're not lying. Speaking of rookies, we're here with another man who knows his shit when it comes to rookies. Good friend of the show, Shane Barrett at FF Shane B on Twitter. Shane, welcome in. Nice to finally have you on the pod. Thanks for joining us. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, man. You caught me on a good day when got done with work, or could take a little break from work because I got a later meeting coming up. So I am excited to get in here with you. We've interacted, like you said, a lot on Twitter, and love you guys' work. So I'm excited. This should be a fun show.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Shane, almost my little way into the FF Astronauts before I ended up getting in. Shane, I did not follow up with you on this one, though I should have. I did get in with Dynasty Nerds, so I am writing. Well, I have not written one yet for them, but I will be in the process of that soon. So exciting for me, I guess, and everyone else who's looking forward to my content. To keep on the lookout for that. Of course, you will be able to find that on my Twitter at FantasyForceFB. You can follow the show at Dynasty Force Podcast. No, Dynasty Force Pod. Want to get that right. And then Dynasty Force Podcast on YouTube. Normally we would have a quick question, but today we got winners and losers. Trey is not on the podcast yet. Trey should be joining the podcast a little later on when he can find a little time for a break from work. So his winners and losers should also be on the podcast. If he does not show up based on work whenever, then I will just read his winners and losers still. Maybe he can give a little reasoning as like a quick question sort of thing next week. But anyway, this week we do have winners and losers. So each of us here and hopefully Trey will have one winner and one loser. And then we still have some free agency news to go over. Last week we covered a ton of it, but obviously we did not cover all of it because a lot's happened in the past week. So without further ado, how about we just get into the free agency news, and I will kick it over to our guest host here, Shane, for our very first point here, which is going to be Chris Carson re-signing with the Seattle Seahawks. He signed on a 2-year, $14.6 million deal. Shane, I feel like this was best case scenario for Chris Carson and his fantasy value and his owners, or managers, I should say.
See, I'm going to disagree with you here, Rob.
Interesting.
I think somewhere like Arizona or Pittsburgh potentially could have been a better fit for him. I mean, Seattle's still a good fit, don't get me wrong. But I'm almost wondering if a new scenario would have maybe livened him up a little bit. I I mean, and this is partially just because I'm not a huge Chris Carson fan, so I wanted to see other people get an opportunity in Seattle. But I really feel like Pittsburgh would have been a great fit for him. But at the same time, he's kind of just an upgraded version of James Conner because they're both always hurt. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. But I think for the money that he's getting, why not stay? And keep trying. I mean, he's going to get touches in that offense because all they want to do is run the ball.
All they want to do is run the football. That's the reason why I'm well enough on Chris Carson. I don't think I have a ton of shares of him, but I mean, like if people were willing to sell him cheaply, maybe like a mid to early second round pick, just to try and get out early on Chris Carson, because he is getting a little up there in age, and obviously you want to sell running backs on their second contracts. I think I'd be willing to pay that price just from the volume standpoint and how he's been successful for Seattle in the past. Which side are you on, Bill, for Chris Carson?
I thought this one was pretty obvious for me, man. You know what side I'm on, man. I'm on the give me all the Chris Carson until I see the hashtag let Russ cook coming to fruition for Seattle, man. Seattle's one of those teams every year when you do your projections. I don't know if you guys do like projections manually or if you guys just look at them. I just look at them. I don't ever do them manually. You always see Chris Carson's projection, and it always feels too low. And then you see Russell Westbrook, and you're just like, I mean, not Russell Westbrook. That's
Wilson.
That shows what time I'm on. NBA DFS is about an hour away. But you see Russell Wilson, and you're just like, man, why don't they just run the Patty Mahomes offense and just let him cook? And it's just like, as much as fantasy owners as we want to allure that, me, man, I even traded for fucking Tyler Lockett for Allen Robinson. So, I'm all about the hashtag let Russ cook, but they just haven't done it yet. And I feel like with Chris Carson, Shane brought up some good points, though. I was on team Chris Carson, but I would like to see him in Seattle or Pittsburgh a little bit more. But I'm absolutely fine with Seattle. Seattle's going to run the ball. Why they want to run the ball, I don't know. Is Rashad Penny dead? I don't know. But as long as Rashad Penny's still dead and there's nobody else back there, man, I think Chris Carson left some meat on the bone. I think there's some meat left on the bone for Chris Carson fantasy numbers. He's a guy that I'm going to actively try to acquire during the draft season, like right after the draft season. Right now it's too early because this is like the high point for him. But after the rookies get their landing spots and stuff, I'm definitely going to be trade acquiring for Chris Carson because I feel like he's the type of stable RB2 that can push your team over the hump, because he's the type of guy that like gets listed as an RB2 in the weekly ranking, but he has RB1 upside, kind of how Shane said, similar to like James Conner. But I just think James Conner don't want to ever draft a guy. This sounds fucked up to say, but like praying to God, as you guys can't see me, but I'm praying to God.
I can trust
drafting
you.
the guy on my dynasty team that had cancer. That's just a whole entire different situation. I can't. That's not a winning
It
proposition.
does really affect your body.
NFL running back that formerly had cancer. No matter how healthy he is, he's gonna have chronic illness problems from that. The fact that he even got that far since that cancer situation is just a testament to how strong and tough of a character he is.
Yeah, definitely. I don't, like Bill mentioned, like obviously huge commitment to James Conner because he was fantastic in college too. But I do remember because I believe James Conner's rookie season, Le'Veon was still playing, and it was his second season is when Le'Veon sat out. I remember speaking with my wife, who like kind of is from a hospital environment, so she kind of knows a little bit. And she just was telling me, like, she took nursing throughout college and different things, so she knows a little bit about how cancer affects the body. And she was telling me it's not going to be the same for him throughout his career, how he's going to heal from injuries, especially how, like, not just bone structure, but also, like, muscle structure, just the different kind of injuries he'll go through and his recovery process. And he looked fine in points last season, but,
And even
kind of a
last year
difference.
with COVID, man, I thought there was a chance that he was going to sit out the season.
Yeah.
When they started doing the COVID stuff like that, because that definitely doesn't seem like the type of environment that a post-cancer patient should like be around, like
Right.
COVID friendly and stuff like that. But
And the Steelers had multiple incidents throughout the season where they were not necessarily them being affected, but their opponents were affected, and it was a risky situation, definitely. Shout out to James Conner though, still unsigned sadly, but he'll catch on as a depth piece somewhere. I do believe. Moving on here from Chris Carson in Seattle, let's talk about maybe one of the few other fantasy-related running back pieces of news, and Mike Davis signing with Atlanta on a 2-year, $5.5 million deal. I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. I saw this move, and I decided to sell all of my Mike Davis shares from this piece of news because, as of right now, he is the RB1 on the depth chart. I do not expect that to last past the draft, and then, okay, maybe he'll open the season as the starter, kind of like a David Montgomery situation when he was in Chicago, but we saw how long that lasted. And Mike Davis, yes, he looked fantastic in Carolina last season, but that really trended downwards in the second half of the season. I just feel like he's not a workhorse back. He's a solid depth piece. He's definitely better than Ito Smith. He's definitely better than Brian Hill. So I'm fine with having him as an RB2 on the depth chart behind a rookie. I think when we made our free agency predictions, Bill, I think it was, that projected a bigger name free agent, maybe like Leonard Fournette going to Atlanta. And I was just saying the whole time I didn't see it. Not from a.
I was shocked that you guys signed him. To have as much confidence as you guys are gonna have, like, you guys drafted somebody. Like, what are you guys doing?
We're drafting someone.
Do I need
if
to
we
get out
don't
of my
draft
Matt
someone
Ryan shares? Like,
if-
dude, I've been asking people. I'll trade you fucking Derek Carr for Matt Ryan straight up. Please, just help me out here.
No, we're if we don't draft someone, I can tell, like, we'll probably overdraft a running back in round 2 rather than not draft someone. I think. I highly would expect. I doubt Najee Harris will be there, but if he is, he would be the guy. But
if he is,
I'd be shocked
to be
too.
completely honest.
But if he's not there, I 100% expect Javonte Williams to be there, and I expect the Falcons to draft him in the second round because I just think he's.
What was the one rookie that we're looking at? Chuba Hubbard, that's his name. I think Chuba Hubbard.
You would love that.
Bro, if Chuba Hubbard went to the
Chuba to
Falcons.
Buffalo. I am the
Oh my God.
conductor for this hype train. Chuba Hubbard to Buffalo. Sign me up.
I'm right behind you. Give me a passenger seat.
Just Chuba in a spot that actually utilizes him well, I think is all we really want.
Totally agree.
Yeah,
but I
another
think
DeAndre Swift situation, because last year DeAndre Swift was graded like my number one like talent running back, and then he moved back down 3 slots, but it kind of fucked up my dynasty teams because like Swift is the guy that you kind of want now, but it's just like I don't want to run into those situations where like you're so happy about the talent and then they just fall to like the team like the fucking Lions, and you're just like, oh my God, do I want the Lions running back for the future? I wouldn't mind the Jets, bro. All jokes aside, you know me. I like my dirty Jets, man. I like my dirty Jets players.
Yeah, well, Michael P. Ryan. I'm sure you were on that bandwagon. I do remember the Bilal Powell bandwagon a few years ago when he was going in the 4th round.
Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker. I always had some
Eric Decker.
Eric Decker was my favorite
Eric Decker
player of all time.
My wife also loves Eric Decker, but that's for a different reason.
Oh yeah, well, what wives don't love Eric Decker? Are we being serious here? Shane, I'm assuming by your reaction that we're not, or you are not, on the mindset that Mike Davis is going to be a fantasy contributor next season for Atlanta.
I see it going one of two ways. I see it either him kind of being and this is after talking with a fellow astronaut, Nick Penikoff, possibly being like a bridge running back, if that makes any sense at all. And going to kind of just be a placeholder for a couple years. With ultimately them going and drafting a running back in 2023. If that doesn't happen, I think they're going to draft someone this year, and that is going to put him as a backup, best case scenario.
Rob, can I say one thing to you real quick before you start making Jets jokes and shit? If you have Tevin Coleman on your roster and you just saw that he signed the New York Jets, you're one fucking happy owner.
Yeah, pretty solid. I agree. I'd like that.
That news literally just came out like right as we went live that Tevin Coleman just signed to the New York Jets.
So I've been using NFLupdate.co, which is a great website, and their free agency tracker. I know I mentioned last week on the podcast that because I got this from their website that Tevin Coleman signed with Miami. So I don't know where that news came from. Obviously, I didn't hear that news about Miami. Very, ever.
Yeah,
I didn't hear it anywhere. So
this is the official report from NBCSports.com.
Right.
So it's a credible information.
Yeah. So, but still, I'd prefer Tevin Coleman in New York. Maybe he's worth a shot there. Shane, real quick, run it by you.
The official Jets and former 49ers running back Tevin Coleman signed to a 1-year deal worth up to $2 million.
Yeah, which is better. I like that a lot better. Shane, I want to run by you real quick. My putting Mike Davis on the trade block resulted in a trade where I moved back from 203 to 207. This is an IDP league, by the way. I don't know how interested you are in IDP, but basically I moved back from 203 to 207. Gave up Mike Davis and Emmanuel Ogbah to get Mike Williams, Shaquille Griffin, and Damian Wilson, who's a linebacker for the Chiefs. And just more so along the lines of Mike Williams versus Mike Davis to me. I'd much rather have Mike Williams.
100%.
So
I'm not as familiar with the IDP players, even though I play. Chiefs linebacker is pretty decent.
Yeah. I think linebacker is the most valuable piece in IDP because it's hard to rely on tackles from a corner, hard to rely on sacks from a defensive end. So you just kind of got to rely on the reliable tackles of a middle linebacker and them to make plays. That's from what I found out. And Damian Wilson would be like a depth linebacker piece. Anyway, moving on here.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I think I also had
my internet
issue,
was a little unstable. Sorry.
not just yours.
Well, since you ran a trade by me, I'm gonna run a trade by you because I actually just sold my only Mike Davis share today.
Okay.
It's a I think 56-man roster.
Okay. So that's
with like 11 or 12 starters on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I sold Mike Davis for the 4.11 and a 2022 third.
I missed that. You cut out a little bit. Mike Davis for what?
The 4.11 in a rookie draft and the 2022 third.
I mean the depth.
Superflex IDP.
The depth is crazy in that league. So the fourth will definitely have more value. The third will also have value. I think I would lean the depth there because I don't see. I think Davis will probably have to be started in that kind of a league, but I don't see him as being like a very big contributor. Like I said, maybe for the first few weeks or so, but far into the future, I don't see it. Other running back news.
So you're saying basically trade Mike Davis if you can right now?
I would say that. Yeah.
Because you know me, man. I had a lot of Christian McCaffrey on my team, so I have a lot of just Mike Davis leftovers.
Yeah. I went into every single league, and I know we have a few leagues together. In any league that I did not have Mike Davis it seemed like you had Mike Davis. So I know I would be selling him just
Yeah,
because.
but I fucking drafted Mike Davis. Like I didn't even pick him up off of waivers.
But yeah, man. I mean,
remember people thought Reggie Bonifon was about to be a thing.
Yeah, Super Bonifon.
So
yeah, man,
who's Christian McCaffrey's handcuff now?
I've seen
Bonifon, I think.
I've seen Rodney Smith going claimed in a lot of leagues.
That's what they're saying. They're drafting somebody.
Hopefully. Other running back news that could be potentially relevant. Philip Lindsay signs with Houston on a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. I still feel like David Johnson's the main guy, and then it'll be like a little Lindsay sprinkled in, and then maybe some Mark Ingram here and there. So I don't think this is a landing spot that you wanted for Philip Lindsay. And also, if Deshaun Watson isn't playing, then
this probably is the worst landing spot for Lindsay.
Yeah.
That seems like a 3-headed backfield. I know you said you think David Johnson gets the lion's share of carries, but they signed Mark Ingram for a reason. I would imagine they would want to use him around the goal line. And then where does that leave David Johnson? And then after that, then man, I feel bad for Philip Lindsay. I thought anything was
I kind of like it for him.
Interesting. I'd like to hear why.
Because David Johnson is old and hurt. Mark Ingram is old. And I think Lindsay's better than both of them. I think he has a chance to win out the starting job. If he continues to play like he did in his rookie season.
Well, if Deshaun Watson, let's say in a hypothetical world, he is available to play. Me and Rob talk about this for literally, I want to say since he was at Clemson. The dude does not check down. So any pass-catching running back, I just knock down their receptions when they play with Deshaun Watson. Not anything against him. It's just when he runs into that pocket pressure, he just runs.
Yeah. I would listen. I mean, Lindsay. If people are really off of Lindsay, maybe he's worth the buy for the upside of maybe he gets the job in a Deshaun Watson-led offense and he can be efficient running the football. But I mean, personally, it's kind of. I hope for more. I would have been happier with him signing with the Jets, honestly, because I feel then he's guaranteed worse offense, but at the same time, he's guaranteed to get some touches at the same time, and there is no guarantee here. Other running backs this time, we mentioned Tevin Coleman signing with the Jets. Damian Williams signs with Chicago on a 1-year deal, which I think, if anything, I don't know, depth or maybe hurting Tariq Cohen a little bit. I don't know. And then Mike Boone signs with Denver on a 2-year deal, so he's kind of the Philip Lindsay replacement there. As far as wide receiver news, Kenny Galladay did take a little bit to sign, but he did sign with the New York Giants on a 4-year, $72 million deal, $18 million annually. I don't have any Kenny Galladay shares because I did trade him mid last season towards the end of the season. But that said, if I did have any Kenny Galladay shares, I'd be highly, highly, highly disappointed. Shane.
What?
Shane, I'll let you go first. What are your thoughts here with Kenny?
I love it. Absolutely love it. It's what the Giants needed. To me, I've been saying this all offseason. They have They had 2 wide receiver 2s on their roster, and Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. And I'm a big Slayton guy. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. Mm-hmm. But I don't think either of them had the frame or the play style to really be an alpha dog. Kenny G gives them that. So I think it helps the offense as a whole. So I love this for him. And I think my buddy Justin tweeted out a meme about Josh Allen having a 3rd-year leap because he got Stephon Diggs. I by no means think Daniel Jones is going to have that kind of 3rd-year leap. I think Daniel Jones is going to improve a lot, but not QB2 overall in fantasy football by getting Kenny Galladay. But I think Kenny is going to do similar things for him that Stephon Diggs did for Josh Allen. So Jones should be a pretty big improvement over last year. So I love it for Kenny G from a real football standpoint and from a fantasy perspective.
Since I seem to be on an island here because Billy's crazy. What? Look, it's just I think the jump that Josh Allen made from year 1 or year 2 to year 3 was so crazy. You look at his first 2 years, his passing stats, his accuracy ratings, his completion percentage, it was all down in the dumpster. And last season, he was top 10 in basically all categories. He just made an insane jump. And yes, Stephon Diggs definitely helped that a lot. But I just think it's kind of an outlier, and it's hard to compare a situation like that with a situation like Daniel Jones. The only reason I'm looking at it from here, who would you rather have as Kenny Galladay's quarterback? He could have re-signed with Detroit and had Jared Goff. He's been having Matt Stafford, who's been a really good quarterback. And now I feel like it's a downgrade there from Goff.
Can I
know Goff isn't good.
I got questions for you, Rob.
Yes, go ahead, Billy.
My first question is,
okay,
what division does he play in?
He plays in the NFC East now.
My second question is, do you think the Giants win more than 4 games this year?
Yes.
Come on, man. Yeah, do you think they're making the playoffs? Yes or no?
No.
Exactly.
4 games, though, is the difference.
Well, you know what I mean. They're going to be a bottom of the barrel team. And then my third question is, who's the wide receiver 2? Did you not see Odell Beckham's usage the last time he played for the Giants? It doesn't matter who the fuck the quarterback is. It's all about where the targets are going to go. You give Kenny Galladay garbage time situation. That's what made Kenny Galladay so attractive to the Lions. You think the Lions are going to be airing out the ball? That offense is going to be a stinker for fantasy next year. I would not want anything in that offense besides DeAndre Swift. I'm telling you right now, Kenny Galladay going to the Giants is the move. The Giants are never going to be in the situation where they're going to be running the ball 20 times because they got this lead and they need to milk out the clock. Give me all the garbage time of Kenny Galladay. I think it's stupid that he signed to the Giants, but from a perspective of like being an Eagle fan, man, that's a good ass signing for like them in the
Giants.
Future.
Yeah.
It's just like Odell Beckham, bro. They haven't had like a situation where they had that Odell Beckham like alpha receiver. And the fact that you give me Odell Beckham that isn't a prima donna, that the ceiling is right.
Don't you slander Odell Beckham Jr. in front of me.
I love Odell, but he's like he falls into the Johnny Manziel, Josh Gordon category for me of like players that I personally love that I'll probably have their jerseys hanged up in my living room, but from a dynasty perspective, I can't buy them.
I just got him at 10-5 and a.
Oh yeah, he's going so insanely late in dynasty leagues. You got to take the shot.
Now I'm buying it. He's going in the 10th round, and I have a full roster. He's coming off the bench. Now I'm buying Odell.
So it's a super deep roster, and he's my he's my first flex, 4th wide receiver, or maybe second
like
flex.
I'm winning some fantasy championships. That's happening.
As far as Kenny Galladay, we talked a lot. But we will talk more later in the winners and losers section, hint, hint, on Kenny Galladay. So we could move on here into kind of like a brief overview of another person who will be in the section later. In Juju Smith-Schuster re-signing with Pittsburgh on a 1-year, $8 million deal. And Shane, I'm going to preface it? I don't know. Whatever. You have him later in the episode, so I'm going to throw it to Billy first on the idea of Juju going back to Pittsburgh. I don't know. There's some. I mean, it came out later. The other offers he had on the plate too.
I cried. I cried when I saw this because for the people that don't know, maybe like Shane or some new listeners or something like that. huge Notre Dame guy. My brother went there and all that. So like these
Hey,
Notre Dame,
go Irish.
yeah, go Irish. Yeah. So my brother always puts me on to these players like way
Chase
early
Claypool,
before like,
right?
yeah,
Mhm.
dude. You talk about a loser in free agency, man. Went for Chase Claypool, man.
I ain't worried about it.
Dude, I
He'll
had
win
him
out.
as a top 25 ranking coming into the season because I didn't think Juju was going to resign. And you know what else I got to say before I don't want to get too long on this, but how did Nelson Aguilar demand more money than Juju? What?
Yeah, that's
wild.
crazy. Nelson Aguilar is getting paid a lot more than a lot of other wide receivers
Bro, that's
out there,
wild.
and it's just
That's wild. Who is in there in the financial fucking boardroom that says, "Oh yeah, you know, Nelson Aguilar twice the money as Juju. That's the move we need to make." Like, fire that guy. That guy is the guy is the reason why we don't fucking. The reason why fucking Jonathan Taylor doesn't get all the touches.
Yeah.
Billy, I like you, man.
Billy's a fun guy. All right, we'll come back to Juju later on in the episode. Real
I'll
quick,
just
we got
say this real quick. It's
Yes,
a
sir.
prove it deal to me.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
So we'll see if he proves it.
We'll see. Josh Reynolds signed with Tennessee on a 1-year deal. De facto wide receiver 2 as of right now because they lost literally every single other person on the roster. So that's interesting.
You got lucky, man. You got lucky.
Yeah, definitely. Deshaun Jackson signed with the Los Angeles Rams on a 1-year deal. He's always hurt, so he's probably not going to help your fantasy roster very much. But man, when he's on the field, he's a factor. And
my Van Jefferson shares are crying a little bit.
Oh yes. The Van Jefferson startup shares that I got last year, where he was so late. Yes, they are in the dumps as of right now.
Who knows? Maybe it benefits him in the long term, though, and Djax can kind of show him the ropes.
Right. I was going to say only one place to go, and that's up. So N'Keal Harry kind of proved that one wrong. So hopefully it's not that kind of trajectory, and it just goes up from here. Chris Conley signed with Houston on a 1-year deal, and we will talk about Houston later on. And only tight end news that I kind of had, besides what we originally had, which is Dan Arnold signing with Carolina on a 2-year, $6 million deal, which is kind of okay, whatever.
I don't hate that. I think it's a good fit for both, potentially, but it's not anything that I'm like, ooh, let me have some Dan Arnold. It's more of like,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll see if they draft, a tight end or a quarterback, and whatever happens. Hey, maybe they end up with what's his name? Frymouth in the second round, potentially.
The Panthers.
It could happen.
Speaking of doing existence.
All right, guys, let's go in to the biggest winners and losers from free agency. Before we do that, one more shout out. At Dynasty Force Pod on Twitter, Dynasty Force Podcast on YouTube. Check us out. Follow us. You'll always see when we go live if you hit the little bell or notification button, whichever one it is. And yeah, man, we're live every Wednesday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So and then our podcast live on all streaming platforms the day after for your week, for your nice little fancy content for that week. So let's get into it. Big winners and losers from free agency. Let's start with winners here. Let's head over to Shane to kick us off as our guest. Shane, you have a fan in us for your winner on this episode.
Awesome. Love it. I like to, if you know me and my podcast guesting, I like to go a little out of the box sometimes with my answers. So went a little out of the box here. Terry McLaurin is my winner. So here's why. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzmagic. I love Fitzmagic. I've been saying since
Who
the
doesn't
beginning
love
of this,
Fitzmagic, though, honestly.
Tua Tagovailoa, maybe. But I love Tua too.
That's a good take.
That's the thing too, as I love Tua, but that's not what we're talking about. So I've been saying since the start of this offseason, I think Washington from a football standpoint, is a quarterback away from being a very, very good football team. Fitzmagic to me fits that perfectly. I think he's going to be. I think he's shown that he's grown from the Fitzmagic, which is amazing to say since he's 36, but he's grown from the Fitzmagic that threw 3 or 4 interceptions a game, multiple games in a row, and things like that. So I love this signing. I think his personality of just saying, fuck it, I'm just going to throw the ball is going to work out well for this offense and help them grow and expand. Then you add in the fact that they also signed Curtis Samuel. I love this because Curtis Samuel's number one route is a deep route. And you didn't see this in 2019 because his quarterback was Kyle Allen, who Kyle Allen probably couldn't have hit me 20 yards down the field. Now, I'm 5'9", so maybe he's got an excuse there. But Curtis Samuel's not. Curtis Samuel's an NFL athlete. He should have been able to hit him down the field, but he couldn't push the ball down the field. Fitzmagic will be able to. So what I think that's going to do for Terry is take the pressure off of him and give him a lot of room to operate, and he's going to have a much more competent quarterback than he's ever had.
Definitely. Yeah, Fitzmagic and like slinging the football are like synonymous in everyone's mind, I think. And I don't think he's necessarily going to have to, because in Washington they have a great defense and they have a great running back too in Antonio Gibson. But that said, when they do have to throw the football, it adds a whole new element to their offense.
Exactly.
And Terry McLaurin is going to be a huge benefiter. Curtis Samuel, I like Curtis Samuel a lot, but I didn't really think he would sign somewhere to be a wide receiver one. I definitely thought like it would benefit him to be a complement. And here he is a complement to Terry McLaurin. And I think their game styles will complement each other really well. So having a very good quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick add in.
Man. I feel like real life perspective wise, that's a dog shit signing by the Redskins. Because it's like, I mean, not the Redskins, Washington football team. Let me say that.
Listen, Bill has said Redskins for the past year. I feel like he can continue to say Redskins at this point. It's always going to be with him.
I don't think the Washington football team got better from a real life perspective. They need a young quarterback to develop with the young pieces around them. But from a fantasy perspective and a win now perspective, I guess from a real life perspective, is a really good signing. People were complaining about fucking Ryan Fitzpatrick going to Washington because I told you before, I work at pub, so we do the rumor mill videos and stuff like that. And I was looking at the comment section, and I was just like, man, I thought people were going to be like excited to see Ryan Fitzpatrick on the Washington football team, because it's just like, you know where you're getting out of Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're getting a top 25 receiver guaranteed, and then the top 25 receivers already there. And it's just like, man, like Alex Smith showed glimpses of what Terry McLaurin could really become. It's just that Alex Smith was just at the end of his road. And you give me Ryan Fitzpatrick in the same exact NFC East situation. I just think the NFC East, if you draft players from the NFC East this year, all those game totals are going to go over this year. All the defenses are not good. The Cowboys are going to, except Washington.
And he won't have to face Washington.
Washington's the only team. And I just think that from a fantasy perspective, I couldn't agree any more with you guys. That's probably one of like the signings that like made me like jump out of my chair and just like fucking excited. Like, because I know I'm a big DFS guy, and I'm going to be playing Fitzpatrick, McLaurin, Samuel stacks all year next year.
And
definitely. Gibson. I believe J.D. McKissick is gone. I don't know if he is signed with anyone. Yeah.
The only thing is with Antonio Gibson, man, I'm shocked that he did as good as he did last year from just like the perspective of like not playing running back in the NFL. Like, because he was a wide receiver throughout his whole entire college career. So, yeah, a testament to Antonio Gibson, man. I forgot to notice him too, because Fitzmagic is all about the yard, so he'll dump it down if he needs to. And I cannot wait to sing it.
it's magic.
Magic.
You know the feeling you never gave me before.
Billy, thank you so much for the live concert. It's exactly what I signed up for. I'm very happy that we're all on the same page here with Terry McLaurin, and not because there are some people that are probably out there like, oh, this isn't well. Fitzmagic, obviously, like you can't really make an argument against that as far as that being a good move for Terry and his fantasy value, but Curtis Samuel, maybe you could if you said like he'll take targets away, but it's really not gonna. It's not like that. Like he's only complimenting Terry, and he'll only enhance his game
They
if he
just need
takes
it.
any
I mean,
targets
think about
away.
it this way though. Like, who was Washington's wide receiver 2 last year?
Yeah.
Actual at like
Logan
at the actual wide
Thomas. Logan Thomas.
Well,
and
it's
then
so
the
there's my
actual wide
point.
receiver 2 was Sims.
Cam
right?
Sims, yeah.
Cam Sims.
Cam Sims. So if you upgrade from Cam Sims to Curtis Samuel, why the hell not? I mean,
Yeah.
and you upgrade from Alex Smith to Brian Fitzpatrick, I feel like your offense is just going to go up.
Definitely. Shane, I know you have kind of you mentioned a work thing that you're going to have to go take care of. So I will let you take care of your loser next. And that way you won't have anything to hold you back if you do have to skedaddle.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Go for it.
So my loser is Juju Smith-Schuster, and here's why.
As mentioned slightly
As mentioned
earlier.
before, and that's why I didn't comment too much on it before. I feel like he's a loser, because he, like I think it was Billy mentioned, he got paid less than Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
What the hell? 2, I feel like this may be hot takey. I don't know if the Steelers are going to be good enough to make the playoffs this year.
Well, I mean, after their what was it?
Collapse.
11 games to start the season. 11 games in a row they won. What'd they end? 12-4. And then they lost in the first round.
Cowboys. If they didn't, I think they might have.
Oh yes, I remember they almost lost to the Cowboys.
Me and my dad were driving back from Greenville, South Carolina to Birmingham, and listening to that game, and they almost lost to the Cowboys, and we were ecstatic because we're Cowboys fans. But it was like, what? Like, I don't get it. So for me, not only because he didn't make a ton of money, I think from a football perspective and a fantasy perspective, that wide receiver room is going to be very, very crowded. And like Billy and I discussed earlier, I'm a huge Claypool fan because I'm a Notre Dame fan, but I also just think he's a freaking monster. I also think Deontay's really good. So they're going to all be battling for targets, to where I feel like he could have gone somewhere else to A, improve his shots at a Super Bowl, and B, get out of a crowded wide receiver room with a quarterback whose arm isn't going dead, like Ben Roethlisberger. I would have loved so I've got 3 fandoms. You guys can judge me later. But as a Packers fan, I would have loved for him to go to the Packers. Buffalo made a lot of sense to me. Houston, good Lord, if he'd gone to Houston, he would have been the number 1. So there just seem, and I admittedly don't know their cap situations, but there just seem to be a lot of other situations that he could have gone to for me that would have benefited him from a pay, real football, and fantasy football perspective, because he could have become either the number 1 or a solid number 2, like in Green Bay behind Devontae, where that duo would have been absolutely disgusting. Think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin from 2019, to where he doesn't he's maybe the 1A or the 1C, depending on how you see it in Pittsburgh, but that still means you're splitting target shares 3 different ways. And I'm concerned about Big Ben and his health, his motivation to continue to play football. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do in the draft for me, because that could determine where that football team goes.
Definitely. Juju, I talked about, it came out like some of his other offers on the table. One was to Baltimore for $9 million, and then he would potentially earn another $3 million in incentives. I understand why.
Love that.
I understand why he might not have wanted to go to Baltimore because he loves Pittsburgh. Maybe, there's no reason to go to a division rival and fight the incentives and all that. The other one was Kansas City, where he would have made the same amount of money, like in salary terms, but he would have also potentially gotten $3 million in incentives. So he turned down almost $3 million essentially.
Oh my God.
And the chance to win in a Super Bowl. And think about it too. He's only 25 years old. It would have been another 1-year deal. His best year was when he was with Antonio Brown, and he was not the number one on that football team. And Big Ben was out there slinging it. You have Patrick Mahomes, who's the best quarterback in football. You have Tyreek Hill in that offense. You have Travis Kelce in that offense. Like the main focus.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Forget my boy.
Right. Stealing the little what's it? I forget. Drop downs, whatever. I forget what they're called at the moment. But anyway, like Juju would have been in a lot of one-on-one situations. He would have been able to take advantage of a lot of cornerback matchups. He would not have been the main focus of the defense. Like, it would have been a fantastic situation. He would have really done well, I think, for hitting his incentives, potentially fighting for a Super Bowl number 2, and being on a 1-year deal, coming off of a potentially great year with a great quarterback and a great offense. He would have made a lot more money than what I think he'll make after this season. So for me, like, I understand you want to come back to Pittsburgh. You want to be, so loyal and you want to love everyone and all that. But just think about it from a financial perspective and from a career perspective. I think it would have benefited Juju a lot more to go to some place like Kansas City, maybe even Baltimore or something like that. But coming back to Pittsburgh puts you in that situation. Bill, any thoughts here? Besides
one thing that I will say about the Juju situation is there's a crazy man out there that literally predicted Juju Smith-Schuster's rest of his career. And, we all call him crazy in the fantasy community. We always try to make jokes about him and say we don't want players like him on our teams. But, man, you can't tell me Antonio Brown did not call Juju Smith-Schuster's career, man. He said, dude is a fraud. He is not a number one receiver. You want to be a number one receiver? I'm leaving. And then, we fast forward a couple years later, and, Antonio Brown has a ring, money, cars, family, and Juju's out here getting paid less than Nelson Aguilar out of his first free agent contract. And Antonio Brown's the crazy one. It's crazy how the world works in mysterious ways, man.
Yeah, man. Listen, Juju could have been better, but like I said, I understand you want to be loyal. You want to go back to where you had fun. You want to do all this. Okay.
That's what I said the Antonio Brown comment for, because, do you think, that comment kind of, stuck in his head a little bit of, how he thinks he's the Pittsburgh, he represents the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I don't know if you're on the TikTok wave and stuff like that, but if you, look at, the promoted TikTok account for, the Steelers, it's literally just Juju Smith-Schuster and, Chase Claypool, and, do you think that, comment a couple of years ago, because the comment that I'm referring to is when Antonio Brown didn't win Steelers Player of the Year, they gave it to Juju because it was his rookie season. Granted, he had one of the best rookie seasons ever in history, but just those comments in itself, do you think a young kid like him, it just kind of sticks in the back of his head? Because it's I know I'm the same exact age around Juju. I can throw off a comment, but I'm still young enough where I remember every fucking
remember it.
Yeah, I remember it.
Same here. I'm only a year older than Juju, which you probably can't tell by my receding hairline. But
don't worry.
I know exactly what you mean with that, Billy. If someone said something like that to me, here's the thing that I'd love to see him though, is him take that as motivation and go prove Antonio Brown wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know if he's gonna do it.
Yeah, it'll be hard to do in the situation that he's in as well. Shane, we'll let you go because, like you mentioned, you got work. Yep. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your work schedule to come onto the pod and join us. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. Again,
Absolutely.
at FF Shane B. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you really should. Check him out. And any other work you want to talk about? I know with the astronauts and anything.
Yeah, so I host a podcast under the Fantasy Football Astronauts called the Fantasy Nightcap. We are actually doing our first live stream Monday at 9:30 Eastern time, so y'all check that out. And I'll tweet out a link here eventually. And then I'm actually writing for the 14 Personnel Pod guys. So I just released a Deep Dynasty Sleepers article yesterday, I believe. So y'all can find my writing there. And one more quick shout out. Rob, I think you know, but I run Polly's Playoff. It's a fantasy football tournament.
Yes.
For the Walk to End Alzheimer's. The registration is open for the second annual tournament. And you can find the information all on my pinned tweet on my account at FFShaneB. With that, see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Catch you later,
Shane, for coming on, man. Because people like Shane are like the type of people we try to bring on, because the way to win fantasy championships is to start like now, and like just the different content that you guys and Rob does a great job of bringing on relevant guests and stuff like that. It just helps me in my process, and I can only imagine what it does for our listeners too.
Cool. I appreciate that, guys. So I'll see you later.
Thanks a lot, Shane. Catch you later. Enjoy your night. Yes, Shane also with the great, he has the charity event or charity league for the Alzheimer's event. So definitely check that out if you're interested in other fantasy leagues there as well. All right, so we have our own winners and losers, Billy, to round us out. Do you want to kick it off here with one of your winners? Do you want me to kick it off?
You can kick it off. I'm in the middle of rolling.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. So my winner for free agency, and this is kind of not like a, I'm buying him everywhere take, but it's more of a I'm selling him everywhere, because looking at the moment, he's a winner. It's going to be Brandon Cooks for the Houston Texans. I know that there's a lot going on right now with Deshaun Watson, but if you can find someone out there who still believes that Deshaun Watson is going to be the Houston Texans quarterback for the 2021 season, and, still is committed to that and all that, then that person, in theory, should be in love with Brandon Cooks. Will Fuller, we'll talk about him a little bit later as well, but Will Fuller is no longer in town. He signed a 1-year deal with the Miami Dolphins. So he is, off doing his own thing with Tua down in Miami. But this changes things a lot for the Houston Texans offense, because I don't think it gets spoken about enough how important Will Fuller was to that offense and the kind of impact that he made. But when you look, because for those who have been following throughout the season, Will Fuller was suspended after the Week 12 game, and he missed the final 5 games of the season. He's suspended for the first week of this upcoming season. So after that, we've already seen what the Houston Texans offense with Deshaun Watson without Will Fuller looks like. And, a 5-game sample, it's pretty solid. In that time, Brandon Cooks played in 4 games and was the wide receiver 7 in that time, which is crazy because from a average perspective, he would be the wide receiver 3. Wide receiver 3 for Brandon Cooks he had such a strong finish to the season. And Will Fuller, people would always mention that. Oh, yes, Brandon Cooks did so great, but Will Fuller wasn't there. Like, what about when Will Fuller is there? Well, now Will Fuller is not going to be there. And their Houston Texans do not have a lot of draft capital. As we know, they don't have their first. They don't have their second. They have a ton of needs across the board. All they made as far as a wide receiver move in free agency was signing Chris Conley, who's not a threat at all to Brandon Cooks' targets. I think he's the clear-cut wide receiver 1 for Houston right now. Now, if you believe that Deshaun Watson is not going to be the quarterback for the Houston Texans, then you should be selling Brandon Cooks right now, because if he's not the quarterback for the Houston Texans, then Brandon Cooks is going to have garbage quarterback play, and he's going to be useless for fantasy, in my opinion. He'll get a lot of garbage time targets, and you'll just hope that they find their way into Brandon Cooks' hands, but you'll have to luck into that. Like, DeAndre Hopkins with trash quarterback play was bad. Like, just imagine Brandon Cooks with trash quarterback play. But if you believe that Deshaun Watson is going to be the quarterback for the Houston Texans in 2021, then Brandon Cooks is a screaming buy right now. So I do with that information what you will. If you believe, then buy him. And if you don't believe, then you might as well just sell him right now. Bill, what are your thoughts here with Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep on my thoughts about Brandon Cooks because it kind of correlates with one of my losers.
Okay. Well, I would head right into that, but you
want to do the loser first then? Because like it literally is the same exact conversation of like why I put him as a loser.
I'm down for that. Let's head into it.
Yeah, my loser is actually Will Fuller from the Miami Dolphins. I really don't like that signing spot for him. We talked about it a little bit last week. And I said from a narrative perspective, I don't like a guy like him signing to Miami. It seems like trouble. And then on top of that, I'm not a fan of Tua. It's a downgrade of quarterbacks. And I just think his situation last year was just so much more fruitful for his fantasy production. I think this year he's going to not get the same red zone targets because of Mike Gesicki and shit like that. I don't think Mike Gesicki is a better player than Will Fuller, but it's just like, what else do you have? Yeah, what else do you have Mike Gesicki for if you're not running him red zone plays? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I just don't think he'll get that same target share that he did last year. And that's the reason why I definitely would agree with you on the Brandon Cooks thing, because that's the appeal of Brandon Cooks right now. Regardless, it could be Deshaun Watson, it could be freaking Brian Hoyer for all I care. Like, I'll be buying Brandon Cooks this year just off the aspect of like, there's no way he's doomed to fail. We saw him last year. I know when Will Fuller got hurt, like you said, dude, he was like one of the most consistent wide receivers for like 6-7 weeks in a row.
Right. Like I said, to finish over the final 5 weeks, Cooks being the wide receiver 3 in points per game. I mean, that's crazy. But let's look real quick. I'm just going to make a quick edit here and look at how Will Fuller did over the first 12 weeks and how good he was. He was the wide receiver 8 in total points. He actually did play all possible games, which is something that we've never been able to say for Will Fuller. And he's a little further down there in average, but 17.2 points per game. He was really helpful for your fantasy team. And that is a downgrade in Miami with Tua. And let me ask you this, Billy. Who's the wide receiver 1 between Will Fuller and Devontae Parker?
I think, who do you think I think is better, or who I think is going to be the number 1?
Let's go with both.
I think Will Fuller's a better talent than Devontae Parker, not even close, because Will Fuller just takes the top off.
Will Fuller has always been good.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Parker, I mean, he's kind of come on with Fitzpatrick.
But they're going to give the ball to – there's going to be more designed plays for, I feel like, Devontae Parker, just from the aspect of, like, he just knows the offense. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. There's always going to be a learning curve. But, I mean, how much of a learning curve is it really if you're just running go routes anyway?
Yeah.
I just don't think Tua is the type of quarterback that I want to be paired with Will Fuller. That's not – it doesn't seem like a winning proposition.
I see what you're saying.
And then on top of that, Rob, like I said earlier, how I started off the conversation, can you think of Will Fuller in the summer training months post-practice in Miami, Florida?
I mean, I'd be celebrating, and I'm not even –
Am I right, bro?
I'm a hermit.
Doesn't that seem like trouble waiting to happen? Or I shouldn't even say trouble waiting to happen because that's fucked up to say. I should say I don't think he gets better. I think it only gets worse from here.
I feel. Well, I mean, one thing that I will say in favor of Will Fuller potentially is that He is on a 1-year deal, so it's kind of like a prove-it contract. Hopefully he takes that mindset into Miami with it and works to improve on that and earn himself a better long-term deal. So I'll head into my loser, then Bill can head into his winner as we wrap up here. So my loser for today's pod is going to be Josh Jacobs, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. If you were here with us last preseason, I was very down on Josh Jacobs because I didn't believe that he was going to get the passing work. Like, there was a lot of talk, a lot of beat reporters or the John Gruden coming out and saying it, or Josh Jacobs saying that he wanted to be involved in the passing game. But there was a lot of actions by the Raiders that showed the opposite. And then he wasn't really involved in the passing game. There was still fantasy value to be had in Josh Jacobs, though. He was the running back 8 on the season in PPR leagues. So even though he didn't, receive a lot of receptions, he still was a horse on the ground, and it carried him to a good fantasy finish. But now, Las Vegas, in case you haven't been following so far this offseason, number one, they signed Kenyon Drake. And what this does is this basically removes all hope that people had that maybe this season things would change for Josh Jacobs and he would start being involved in the receiving game. Because with Kenyon Drake, who is a pass catching specialist, who he's getting paid, I believe it's like $6 million a year for Las Vegas, you might as well chalk it up. He's just going to be a workhorse on the ground, which is okay, but he's not going to be a wide or running back that you are consistently happy with, that you're going to see that upside from. The receiving work really turns into the upside for these running backs. He's probably going to still be a low-end running back 1, but at that point, you like where you're drafting him, he has to finish around there in order for you to be happy. But even further against Josh Jacobs, the difference between the 2020 Raiders offensive line and the 2021 Raiders offensive line is going to be huge. Rodney Hudson, great center for the Vegas Raiders, has been traded. Now they have a center waiting in the wings to try and, be the center of the future for the Raiders. But in the meantime, we don't know. I can't project out the gate that he's going to be as good as Rodney Hudson. So that's a downgrade right there. Richie Incognito no longer with the team. They did resign the man because Incognito, I want to say, only played in 3 games this season, but they did resign the man who replaced Incognito. So that's okay. That's a little part of stability. And they're bringing back Colton Miller, their left tackle. But they also traded right tackle Trent Brown, who's been really good for them. And they also let go of right guard Gabe Jackson, who was pretty decent for them as well. So major hits to the offensive line for the Raiders. And I think it's just going to have an impact on the running game in Josh Jacobs. And because you can't count on the passing game in Josh Jacobs, it's just a huge all-around hit to his fantasy value. I would probably have him as like a mid-tier running back 2 at the moment, just because I don't see an upside for him. Bill, do you feel the same, opposite? I know the Kenyon Drake signing definitely is probably the main point against him at this point.
To be honest with you, I feel like people are over hyping the Kenyon Drake signing. Like, I don't know, it's because I'm just a Josh Jacobs owner and I'm just trying to think of like happy thoughts, but I don't think that signing is as significant as everybody's trying to make it to be. If you combine the usage that Devontae Booker and Jalen Richard had into one person, that would just be Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I will say that Kenyon Drake isn't like, oh, they signed Kenyon Drake and now this takes so much away from Josh Jacobs.
But that's how people are reacting, Rob.
Yes.
I feel like when we get in the redraft leagues this year and like we start looking at redraft leagues, we're gonna look by like the first or second draft, especially in a fucking home league, when somebody knows Kenyon Drake's name from last year, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, I don't think I should draft him," and Josh Jacobs is gonna like in redraft, bro. I get it. If you don't want to draft him and redraft and overdraft him, I understand. Like that's a reasonable point. But I think in Dynasty, man, that this I feel like makes me even want to like hit the person up that's a Josh Jacobs owner and be like, you want to swing that deal over for Josh Jacobs now, dude, or are you still holding on to him?
I will say, like my Kenyon Drake take was more so along the lines of like, it's not that Kenyon Drake is taking work away from Josh Jacobs. It's just that maybe there was some hope for Josh Jacobs owners that, he could eventually see the receiving work that he hasn't been seeing. And now that hope is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like,
word, yeah. I definitely do see what you're saying. I feel like
that ceiling
you got to reach the top 5 in running
teams.
backs. We always talk about this. To reach the top 5 in running backs, you have to catch passes. And that's not a guarantee right now.
Yep.
He's going to have to do it in the touchdown department, and that's never something that's predictable.
Yeah. Yeah. And the offensive line woes or losses don't help with that idea either. Your winner will round us out here, Bill.
Yeah. Can you? Oh yeah, my winner is Kenny G. We talked about this earlier. Just a perfect landing spot for Kenny G. I don't think this is a perfect landing spot real life wise because I don't think Daniel Jones is that good. But I think Daniel Jones is good enough to support Kenny Golladay to get where he needs to be. I had concerns about him if he went back to the Lions. I'm not really high on that offense. I feel like people are going to start to realize when the season starts, a lot of these teams that used to be high-scoring teams and stuff like that aren't going to be high-scoring teams. And I think the Lions are one of those teams that, like, remember I said this, Rob, and remind me in August when we get to, like, when the schedule comes out and I can start betting on sports and shit and stuff like that. I think the Lions team totals for like the first 4 weeks of the season are just going to be like based off of last year's statistics. But if you look at their like personnel right now, you can't tell me that doesn't feel like a run heavy approach scheme type of team that like just deflates the football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just don't see that team, like, really transitioning to this 2021 era of offense that we have. And I feel like the Giants are, while they're not competing, but they're making strides to be able to put up points on the board. Last year, there was a lot of different instances where I felt like Daniel Jones was, like, forcing the ball down the field to people because like they had to make the play. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of situations last year where like Daniel Jones, instead of like throwing the ball down deep, try to run out the pocket. Like he got a lot of rushing yards than like people gave him credit for or accounted for and stuff like that. And I just feel like Kenny Golladay is just going to help out this team so much. It's the first time that they actually had a legit alpha receiver since Odell.
Definitely. You heard earlier on the podcast I was against it, but here a thought came to mind.
Are we selling you throughout the episode, man?
A thought came to mind, okay? You remember Allen Robinson with Blake Bortles?
That's literally the argument. That's literally, Rob, that is literally the argument and picture I wanted to paint in your head is like, who cares what the quarterback is, who it's going to be, what happens. He's gonna get that DeAndre Hopkins type share from the Texans where like you can have fucking Brian Hoyer back there, dude, and he's gonna be like top 20, top 15 receiver. Cause like, dude, this is like
I will say in favor of my theory, I do think the Giants' offense or defense, I should say, is improved as well. They added Adoree Jackson. I know they extended Logan Ryan previously. James Bradbury stepped up a lot. They re-signed Leonard Williams, so they made some decent moves to make their defense a little better. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last season, and that kind of leads to like one of the big things of Blake Bortles with Allen Robinson was like it was all garbage time, it seemed. But I mean, like, garbage time still counts for fantasy football, but like I don't know if it's going to be garbage time for the Giants because their defense is improved, their offense is improved. Their offense is going to be getting Saquon back. I don't think they're going to be.
You're giving them a lot of credit to be one of those
Wait. Let me finish. I was just about to say, I don't think they're going to be any better than 8-8, but at the same time, they could be like one of those teams that hangs in there. You know what I'm saying? Like one of those teams that like every game is competitive, but like hanging around that like mid-20 mark. Like both teams are scoring around there, but I don't think I think the difference will be in Daniel Jones as a quarterback. I think I just don't see him progressing that much as a quarterback as of this moment. And certain spots in the defense, I don't think are going to be able to keep up as well. But go on. You were saying?
No, that's all I really wanted to say. That's really it for this episode. It was a quick one.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Theoretically, because we're still a little over an hour, and try and keep it down for our listeners because I know it's hard to dedicate so much time to a podcast. But I mentioned that Trey had a winner and a loser. Trey did not get to come on to this episode. Bless you, Billy.
Thank you.
Trey's winner was Josh Reynolds because, basically stepping up from the Rams situation into the Titans situation where he's the de facto wide receiver 2 now. And then Trey's big loser was A.J. Dillon. Obviously there, Aaron Jones re-signing with Green Bay kind of destroys the fantasy value, at least in the near future for A.J. Dillon. Bill, at Getting Bills on Twitter. Anything else you want to shout out? Because like you said, you got a ton of live streams going on. March Madness, NBA trade deadline coming up. All these different things, man.
Yeah,
shout out what you want to shout out.
We got a lot of different things going, Rob. You can follow me over on Twitter at Getting Bills. That's probably the easiest way to keep track of everything that I'm doing. Saturdays, college basketball from 12 to 6 o'clock, and then we're going to roll right into that UFC 260 event. It's going to be a fun time with the boys. Man, you should pop up in there, show your face, show your name. And it's going to be a fun time. I got a lot of different other things that I'm working on right now. Like currently, if you want to follow me over on TikTok, you can at briz.billy. I TikTok. I'll do like a video of like what sports bet that I'm on for like the week. And it's usually like a $200 to $150 bet. So it's not like a little $10 bet that I'm just trying to give out for the people and stuff like that. Right now we're 2-0 this week for winners. College basketball parlay hit. Sixers -4 hit last night. I'm telling you right now, man, if you want to become a better sports bettor or just win some free picks and stuff like that, go follow the boys over there at Pub Sports Radio. We'll definitely help you out.
Appreciate the money-making habits, Bill. For me, at Fantasy Force SB on Twitter, been kind of busy, not super active, but if you want, you can still follow me. You can DM, we can talk about anything you'd ever love.
I can't wait for your first article to come out for Dynasty Nerds, man. I can't wait to blow that one up on Twitter.
I gotta sit down and focus and put time into an article because number one, I do want to do it soon because it's been a while that I've been with them and still haven't come out with the article yet, number one. But number two, I really do want to commit myself to coming out with good content, and I feel like I can do that here. So
it's just a really good opportunity for you, Rob, in the future because, man, those thread primers that you put out every week, now it's going to be online with the pictures on it and stuff like that. It's just a great things to see, man, because I known you way before you even thought about even doing content and shit like that. And it's just like a testament to, I feel like,
the kids of this upcoming generation, man.
Yeah,
I feel like kids our age, man, like people aren't going to school and shit. I said this to one of my friends earlier today, like one of my older friends. I was like, people aren't going to school and shit like they were back in the day, playing high school sports, trying to make varsity and JV and shit like that. Like kids are in high school and college and stuff nowadays, like making content and shit like that. And it's just the world that we live in now. And I feel like we're all just getting smarter and better and just reaching new ceilings and new heights that we all never thought that we could ever hit before. And just seeing you do stuff like that, man, I'm just excited for you. I'm glad to be along for the ride.
Appreciate it, buddy. I always love the I don't want to say attention, but the nice words. Yeah. It's the sentimental moments that we have live on the pod. Appreciate it. Always. Yeah, man. Might as well end it on such a positive note. Again, at Getting Bills on Twitter, at Fantasy Force FB for me, and then at Dynasty Force Pod for the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy your night, your week. We'll catch you next week on the pod, where we will be talking about the State of the Union sort of address, where we're gonna, reset after free agency, look at upcoming landing spots for rookies, and then after that, we're gonna have our rookie breakdown. So it's about to get exciting in this bitch. All right, hope you all enjoy your week, and we will catch you next week here at the Dynasty Force podcast. Thanks again for tuning in.